Good morning, my lightnings. How are you today? This is my third episode of Plumosity, so welcome if this is your first time. My last episode, I talked a little bit about meditation, so if you're interested in knowing about that, go back and watch that one. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about morning routines, my morning routine. I don't know if that's going to interest anyone, but I'm always I'm always on the journey of trying to be a better person, to grow, to learn more, to figure out, what makes a good life. And I've seen a lot about how the mornings is a very important time. It sets up your day. And I didn't always know what to make of that. But now I'm starting to understand more of why the mornings are so important. And what I learned is that, we live in this belief that what we think is reality. That our minds know what's going on. Now bear with me here because I know this sounds a little out there, and I will talk about this more in depth at a later date, but our brains are amazing machines, but the brain's main job is to keep us alive and keep us breathing, keep us eating, keep us doing all those things that keep us going, and to keep us safe. So the mind will often come up with things, perceive things, say things to us that are based out of that place and not always what is actually the truth. And so I have often woken up in the morning with a sense of stress or anxiety or fear or sadness and thought that that was real. Like, oh, today's going to be a bad day. Something's wrong. When nothing was wrong. And I have started to learn about thought work, about how our thoughts lead to our feelings. And when you put our thoughts and feelings together, that creates our actions. And that creates results. So when I get up in the morning now, I want to make sure that my mind is in the place that I need it to be in order to have the most clarity and the most joy during the day, the most gratitude, and to experience the world in the way that's positive. And believe me, I have been a pessimist. I've been dark in my life, very dark. So this is a change, and I'm learning how to do it. So in the morning when I get up, I have my coffee, and I do some readings, and I also meditate and chant. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what I read, just in case it's going to help anybody. Okay, so I'm a practicing Buddhist, and so I love to read Buddhist texts, Buddhist writings. I find them very enlightening, and there's a specific way that Buddhists look at the world that I enjoy. So one of the first ones I start with is Buddhism by Day, which is by Daisaku Ikeda, who's my sensei. And so it's a daily book. So I love that one. And then I am a practitioner of Nichiren Buddhism. So my goal this year is to read all of this. This giant book. You can see where I am. And so I love reading about Nichiren and what Nichiren says. And I will talk about that more in another episode. And then the type of Buddhism that I practice follows the Lotus Sutra. And so I have 2 books on the Lotus Sutra that I'm also hoping to read this year. Even if I just read like half a page a day, that would be something. And the reason I have 2 is because the Lotus Sutra is translated in many different ways. This translation is a little more fantastical. It talks about centaurs and dragons and all this kind of thing. So it tries to create the story in a different way, which I really enjoy. And this one has more simplistic language of what the Buddha says. And so I read the same pages at the same time and to see what comes out of both. So that's that. And then I have some other books that I've read for many years. One of them is The Courage to Change, which comes from Al-Anon. Al-Anon is for friends and families of addicts. And considering that addiction is a huge situation in our country, I love reading this because it just helps me understand myself, gives me things to focus on, and helps me understand what is going on around me sometimes with people. And then Melanie Beattie is one of the greatest writers on codependence. And codependence goes along with addiction sometimes. And she has a way of explaining how we take care of ourselves. What are we supposed to focus on when we're in relationships with people and we have this need to control, right? I mean, I think we all have a need to control because we want to make sense of the world. And so she has a great way of wording things that is very simplistic. Both of these are also daily readings. So I love reading and seeing what they say in the morning. And then I have 2 others that I'm going to talk about and I'm going to read from. So the first one is Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic, which is a daily book. And I've been reading this for almost a year now, and I love it. So Ryan Holiday has broken down Stoicism, which is a super interesting way of focusing on how to live a good life and how to succeed. And then I also read Shad Helmstedter's 365 Days of Positive Self-Talk. And the 2 of them actually had something similar to say yesterday. So I found that fascinating. And I couldn't really get it out of my head. So I decided I would share it because let's see if it helps anyone. So this is January 8th from the Daily Stoic. And both January 8th and January 9th are about control. Okay. One is seeing our addictions and the other one is what we control and what we don't. And so Ryan Holiday always starts with a quote from a Stoic and then deciphers it. And so in this one, he talks about addiction, right? And he says, what we consider to be harmless indulgences can easily become full-blown addictions. We start with coffee in the morning, and soon enough, we can't start the day without it. Soon enough, these harmless habits are running our lives. And he mentions things like, we start with coffee in the morning, and soon we can't start the day without it. I'm there. Or we check our email or our texts on our phone because it's part of our job, and soon enough we can't stop checking, right? So these little compulsions and drives we have not only chip away at our freedom and sovereignty, they cloud our clarity. We think we're in control, but are we really? As one person put it, addiction is when we've lost the freedom to abstain. You must reclaim the ability to abstain, because within it is your clarity and your self-control. The ability to abstain. So that, to me, talks about choice, right? That we have a choice to do something in the moment or not do something in the moment, And abstaining, to me, isn't always, it goes beyond just the moment. Like, we can stop drinking coffee for one day, but could we stop drinking it for a month? Could we choose not to do it ever again? Would you? Why or why not? Right? So then Shad talks about self-talk tips. So he does daily sayings, which are great. But then he talks about how positive self-talk changes the shape of your brain. And it's true. And he's done like 40 years of practice of this, and studies and research. And so I'm going to read a little bit about this because this was fascinating to me, and it goes into the concept of choice. So people who practice thinking positively physically reshape their brains by changing what they think. Research has shown that thinking positively physically grows new neurons in the left prefrontal cortex of your brain and boosts your ability to see alternative solutions. This increases your chances of making better choices and being more successful. People who think negatively grow more neurons on the right prefrontal cortex of their brains, and that causes them to close off opportunities and ideas that could have helped them succeed. When you're thinking negatively, your brain is also processing potential solutions at a slower rate. Why? Because it's busy dealing with fright, flight, and fight, instead of focusing on the positive solutions that could have solved the problem, right? So when we think negatively, our brain goes into fear. Fear causes adrenaline to be reduced, to be secreted, and then we're in this place of survival, because that's what the brain does, right? It keeps us alive. So this is a great book that reminds me that, keeping my thoughts and beliefs positive is going to make me more successful. It's going to help me think clearer. It's going to give me choices. And I think that is part of having a good life and having a great day. So I hope some of this helped, whoever needs to hear it. I wish you love and light today. You are loved more than you know. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.